Hello, everyone. My name is Sebastian Lang. I am from T-Systems Germany. Oh, that looks good now. Thank you very much. And as you can already see, as a magenta color and also with my shoes, we are part of the Deutsche Telekom Group. So if you wonder why are we here as T-Systems, actually from a history point of view, T-Systems' first ever job, or where we actually come from, is automotive based. So even if most of you might have not heard of it, T-Systems, we are quite huge in the automotive business. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is not that much directly automotive related, but now we're going to talk about the Eclipse maturity batch process. So there's an agenda for today. So we will go through that step by step, quite quick. I only have 15 minutes, right? So where do we come from? And this is rather automotive based. So within my department at T-Systems, which is connected mobility, so we focus on cloud backend platforms. We developed something that we call Hypercube. Hypercube is a central backend platform that we work with many OEMs like Volkswagen, Stellantis, Mercedes, and so on. Imagine how an ideal backend platform should look like, and that backend platform, Hypercube, consists of many different cubes. One of these cubes we made open source. It's Eclipse SDV Developer Console. So I have to apologize a bit for the name of it, because when I joined Developer Console, it was already too late. The name was made up by two guys that do not code. So if you take a business analyst and a product manager, and they think about, okay, we're talking about, in the end, on the lower left corner would be the proper name, a release management tool. This is what it actually is. But if you take non-coding guys, they come up with an idea, okay, let's call this thing Developer Console, but it has, well, for all the developers in here, it has nothing to do with the Developer Console. Yeah. There's no terminal where you can do stuff. And now Eclipse even comes into the name, which makes it even more irritating. So sorry for that. I guess we have to rename it at a certain stage later. So back to the story. So DCO is a release management tool. So how we see the world, imagine you're an OEM and you receive a lot of software packages, and you have to make sure that these releases that you get do the right thing. You get a bug fix, you get a new feature, you usually roll it out on a certain vehicle to make sure it's a proper thing. And we've seen it with very many OEMs. Usually, this is done in a huge Excel file. So there's some kind of mastermind, he knows everything, or she knows everything. And then that person has a huge Excel file that cannot be touched by anybody else. And so we came up with the idea and say, okay, let's maybe provide a more streamlined process, more clear way how you make sure that a new software package that comes to an OEM becomes releasable, becomes deployable. And that's the purpose of DCO. So question is, yeah, that's how we see the world. You usually start with developing something and you test it, you release it, and then in the end you have very many cars on the right-hand side. And that's what we do within Hypercube. That's the main purpose of the Hypercube solution, but we don't want to talk about that today. Actually, I have a speech on Wednesday here at the EclipseCon. So if you're interested in Hypercube and how DCO contributes to that, come to that speech on Wednesday here at the EclipseCon, but not today. So today we want to talk about the maturity batch process. So at a certain time, I think it was in Friedrichshafen, Dana approached us and said to the Eclipse SDV community, we want to establish a maturity batch process. We want to make sure that all these projects that have been contributed to the SDV working group are mature. So that means they have certain certifications about documentation, code coverage, build time, whatsoever, what you want to have. So the process, I think we already learned about it today, is not yet fully clear, but we already have an idea how tool-wise we want to approach that. So on the top, you see that's basically our idea, what the community wants at this moment in time. And on the lower part, we see, okay, this could be how Developer Console, even so it's not meant directly for that purpose, could be a good fit here. And how this would look like, I will show you now. So we're talking about software lifecycle management here. Again, you start with gathering requirements. You start coding at a certain time. I don't have my own PC here, which makes it a bit difficult to see what I'm showing. Okay. You start development at a certain time, and later on you will probably write some documentation, or you do it together with the actual coding part, and at the very end you will very likely release it. And for now we will take a closer look at the documentation part, how this could be verified and applied within the maturity batch process, within DCO, within the developer console. So, for example, this could be a proposal of how the documentation part of this maturity batch process could look like. So in the end, you would register your project within DCO, and DCO would become a listener to each commit that you make, probably on your main branch. And when you do a commit, DCO would have an implementation of the formal maturity batch process, so also for the documentation part. That means, in the first place, we probably would check, is there documentation? Is there any documentation, or is there no documentation at all? Or before we heard it, is there any code? Also a relevant question. If we take a look at the current state of the committed projects, I think 50% have not committed any code. So there's something where we have to work on. So next level would be then maybe, okay, there is documentation. Does it follow a certain standard? And then maybe the gold level could be, does it fulfill all standards that we have defined as maturity batch process that should be applied to each and every project? So a bit wrong indicating, you see people on the top level, so quality approver and stuff like that. So ideally, we do not want people to do that. If possible, that should be 100% automated. Nobody from us has time to do. We have 40 projects or 50 projects now being contributed to the working group. Nobody has time to do that job up there. That must be automated. Okay, so let's take a look on DCO. That's our nice and shiny user interface that we already have, which is currently applied to new software packages. So on the left-hand side, you see some release ID. For now, you see brands and cars and stuff like that. Hypercars are the cars that we work with. In our Hypercube solution, of course, normally you would see there Mercedes and Volkswagen and so on. And then the interesting part is over here. You see something like quality gates. So within that release process, within DCO, you can define very individual quality gates. And this is where it made click in my head when Dana approached us and said, we need this maturity batch process. I said, okay, we have DCO, and we have quality gates. And in the end, the batch process will be nothing else than a quality gate check. So as we've seen with the documentation, we will just check for each committed project, for each registered project. Does it have documentation? Is it according to the standards? And does it fulfill every standard that we want to have? So remember these green boxes. We will now go one level deeper. That would be now a closer look, a detailed view on one certain release process. So you would have the same kind of information, metadata information about, well, in this case, a release. In the other case, a potential release, a new commit of your given project. And then you would see more details. Okay, where did you pass? Where did you fail? Why did you fail? What do you need to fix to become a better batch in the next run? So here it continues. So you can then even dive deeper and take closer looks. What's happening in each and every step? Where did you succeed? Where did you fail? So at the very end, you would have a good overview. How far are you with the process? What are our potential or our quite certain next steps? What do we want to do? So, of course, there's one Eclipse project that makes it very easy for us to start with. That's DCO. So in the very first step, we will establish a connection from a deployed version of DCO and make that a listener to each and every commit for the open source DCO project. So that every time something changes, a workflow will be triggered to check which badges can be applied. Then we need to talk with Dana, and Dana needs to provide an MVP version of the batch process. And then we can apply the first quality gates, implement those based on that information, however that will look like. Probably we'll start with documentation. It seems quite easy and say, okay, for each SDV working group project, documentation must be in a certain place, maybe under /docs and so on. And then we will find a way to apply badges, to see, okay, how does a check look like? And how can we apply visual badges to a project within GitHub, within GitLab, ideally. If you want to contribute, let's talk. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, yeah, question.
Thanks, Sebastian. I was wondering how the individual checking would actually take place. Is that something that you need to implement yourself by means of a plug-in mechanism or something? Or do you have some standard checks already that are coming with the system? Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it's based on metrics usually that you create for your code base.
Yep. So, well, as said, we are coming from a very generic approach because we go to different OEMs and provide this solution, say, hey, could this be an interesting release management solution for your software packages that you get delivered by the different third-party deliverers, like Bosch, for example. So this process, of course, we come with an example process, and this process is super simple. At this moment in time, it just puts three people there, that have to do an approval. But that's just like an example implementation. So that's when we talk about tracks inside DCO, that would be a track. So when you want to test if a new software package fulfills all requirements, you assign the software package to a track, so it goes through these quality gates, and that could be, in the end, really everything you want. So it's really a free definable workflow. At this moment, it's implemented plain Java, so really simple. But I imagine the next step, rather using something like Node-RED, for example, which is a bit more sophisticated, to be able to write higher level workflows.
Well, I was not so much concerned about the workflow itself, but the real implementation of these workflow steps, meaning I need to assess whether the static code analysis is better than required or something like that, or how high the code coverage is, or something like that.
Exactly.
And I was wondering, do you have some standard functionality for doing that, or do I need to implement that myself?
Well, it would be ideally how I see it. So Dana, and that's what's happening at this moment in time, or we as a community, we would define the maturity batch process. So this is where it starts. We would define, okay, you need to have documentation, and then to be verifiable, it must be in a certain place. Same with code coverage. We want to know how your code coverage is, so you need to do it, and the result must be then in a certain place, certain file, certain folder.
Yeah, but how do you check that? Is the checking logic, is that what I need to implement?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yes,
that was
yes,
okay.
yes, yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
Depending on the conversation of tomorrow, we can also have it standardized. So.
I just didn't really.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's something that would need to be implemented.
very quick question.
Yeah. So to get to the process, so ASPICE I think is given. So that's God-given. So we can't go about it. But ASPICE doesn't define quality gates. So do you want to give a PEP, so a Produktentwicklungs plan, yeah? So which is a product development plan, and give one product development plan to all projects which they have to follow? And so code coverage is something, so they have MISRA, you have the HIS, you have some other rules. Yeah. So that would be rather limiting, no?
What would be limited?
That would be rather limiting, so the freedom of the projects, if you give a complete PEP with gateway, with quality gates, with MISRA rule sets, with his rule sets, with, all the like.
Okay, I think this question is maybe a bit early because the process doesn't define any of these steps yet. Maybe ASPICE is given. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not the process guy. Actually, I don't like processes, but I like implementing processes that are defined by others. So I really don't know. I cannot answer that. From my point of view, the maturity batch process will be defined by the community, by, in the end, all of us that contribute to the SDV working group. And if you want to get these badges, well, of course, then you have to adhere to these rules that have been defined. Otherwise, it won't work.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.